Hi, we're here with Julia, and what did you play today?
Today I played a Onomatopoeia Utopia deck.
Okay, so you get all set up here, so let's take a look at your profile.
So first I'm going to start with the monsters.
Okay.
I have 3 Utopic Onomatopoeias. Utopic Onomatopoeia lets you summon in your main phase up to 1 of each Zubaba, Gaga, Gogo, and Dododo, which is great if you want to get out multiple monsters for an Xyz summon. Additionally, this one can also be treated as Zubaba, Gaga, Gogo, and Dododo, which means that if you're searching with Onomatopoeia, then it means that you can get this, and if you have a reinforcement of the army, since it's a warrior type, then you can choose Utopic Onomatopoeia. It's great because it really is the backbone of this, I'd say the backbone of this main deck for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Funny name though, Go and Baga.
Oh yeah. I love the Onomatopoeia ones because there's just something so fun about saying the names, and I mean, watching it in Zexal, my sister always made fun of the names, but I always thought they were really cool. Next, I have some Go-Go-Gos. So I have Go-Go-Go Giant, which can target a Go-Go monster in the graveyard when normal summoned, and special summon it in defense position.
Okay.
And that's great because if I have it in my hand, but if I've already gone through some of my Go-Go-Gos, then it means that I can quickly bring one back for an Xyz summon. And speaking of Go-Go-Gos, we have Go-Go Golem. And this one, once per turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle when in defense position. And this one is especially good because it actually plays into the effect of another Go-Go monster I have. And speaking of that Go-Go monster, I have Go-Go Ghost, and if it's special summoned, then you can target one Go-Go Golem in your graveyard and special summon it. So Go-Go Golem can quickly be brought back from the graveyard using Go-Go Ghost for an Xyz summon. Next, I have Go-Go Aristra and Dexia, and I have 2 of those ones.
Okay.
And this one is really good in defense position, I find, especially if summoned with Utopic Onomatopoeia because of its high defense.
Yeah, it's 2200, that's a lot.
And when it's on the field, opponents with another Go-Go monster, opponents' monsters cannot target it for an attack, and it cannot be targeted for card effects. So it basically locks down the board from targeting if you have only Go-Go-Gos, because if they can't target a Go-Go and if they can't for an attack, or if they can't target it for an effect, it means that until you get the right cards you need to continue your strategy, they can't really touch those Go-Gos unless they have some non-targeting way. Next, I have Dododo Dwarf, Go-Go Glove, and this one has a good graveyard effect. If you control a Go-Go or a Dododo besides Dododo Dwarf, Go-Go Glove, and this card is in the graveyard, then you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. However, if it's used as an Xyz material, then you can kind of get around that, and you kind of can just send it as, like, detach it as an Xyz material and just keep reusing that. And speaking of the ones with the incredibly long names, these ones from the most recent Utopia support, this one is Zubaba Bancho Gagaga Coat. And this one, if you control Zubaba or Gaga, except Zubaba Bancho Gagaga Coat, and this card is in your hand, you can special summon it. And you can target a Go-Go or a Dodo from your graveyard and special summon it. It's another one that's really good for getting multiple monsters on the field at once.
Okay.
And there's something that is really exciting about these 2 particularly, because it just seems to embrace the kind of lighthearted nature of the Onomatopoeia named monsters pretty well. Next, I have the Gagagas. This Gagaga head, which I believe was in, it was the promo card for Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal Volume 8, and if you're If your opponent controls a monster and you don't control a monster, then you can normal summon it as a level 4 monster, which is great because it's already starting out with 2100 attack. However, you also have the failsafe that if you have something that you want to tribute summon off of your field, then you still have a monster that can be tribute summoned, which is great. For example, if you had a lava golem deposited on your side of the field and you just really wanted to get rid of it, then you can use it to tribute for Gagaga Head, but yet it still has that failsafe that you can normal summon it if you don't control a monster and your opponent does. Then we have the lovely Gagaga Magician, and we have 2 of this fellow. And Gagaga Magician can change his own level from 1 to 8, which is great for summoning things such as Utopia Beyond, or even Utopia Ray V or Utopia Ray Victory, because due to the fact that he can manipulate his level, combined with Automata Pickup's continuous effect, then he can change everything to whatever level he chooses between 1 to 8. And then, of course, we have the lovely Goblinberg. And Goblinberg is one that, when it's normal summoned, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your hand, and then change Goblinberg to defense position.
Oh, lovely.
It's particularly, where it has 0 defense, it's particularly good for Xyz summoning, because I feel like, I don't know whether that's what it was built for, but it does seem like it was intended to just get 2 level 4 monsters out on your field, so it's particularly good for if you have a lot of rank 4s, such as this Utopia deck has. Next, I'm going to move on to the spell cards. We start with Reinforcement of the Army, and Reinforcement of the Army, of course, add 1 level 4 lower warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. That's particularly great if you want to search a Utopic Onomatopoeia and get your board started, because Utopic Onomatopoeia serves as the root of all of these different summonings that I play in this deck. So if I can just grab the Utopic Onomatopoeia without any cost or anything, then that is particularly useful.
Okay.
Next there is Automata, and if you discard a card, you send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard and add up to 2 Zubaba, Gagago, or Dododo monsters from your deck to your hand, but not 2 from the same category. So this could be used to search legitimately any of them. However, I do find it is good for Utopic Onomatopoeia, because it can be treated as any of them. So since I don't have any other Zubabas other than Zubaba, Bancho, Gagaga, Coat, then I can just use Utopic Onomatopoeia as my Zubaba. Then there is Automata Pickup, and this one has 2 effects. You can add 1 Automat card from your deck to your hand, except Automata Pickup, which is great because then you can pick up things like Automata Pyra, or the one you'll see later on, Automatopia, or you can even choose Utopic Onomatopoeia, I believe. However, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I only usually really use it for the spell cards.
Okay, okay. So you use 2 of them?
I do have
3
of these ones.
Okay.
And this one's other effect is that once per turn, you can choose a Zubaba, Gagago, or Dododo, and all monsters on the field become that monster's level. So if you combine that with Gagaga Magician, in which, say, you change Gagaga Magician to level 6, then activate Automata Pickup's effect, you can change any other monsters you have to level 6, which lets you summon something like Utopia Beyond, even though I don't have any more than just Gagaga Head as a actual rank 6 in my deck. Then I have 1 Automatopia. This one, each time a Utopia monster is special summoned to your side of the field, you can place 1 High Five the Sky counter on the card. And for each counter, all monsters you control gain 200 attack and defense. And then that one's also really good because it gives you more special summons, because once per turn you can search a Zubaba, Gaga, Go, or Dodo from the deck if you remove 2 counters. And then you can special summon that, and it's really good because you can choose really anyone that you want, and it's really good to pair if you're building up to something like Utopia the Lightning. You put Utopia, like you summon Utopia Ray V, and then you summon Utopia the Lightning, and that gives you your 3 counters, one for an extra 200 attack and defense, and then 2 counters to use for 1 special summon. Then we have the lovely Double or Nothing. I run 2 of these, partially because I just ended up breaking when I ran 3 of them. However, if I only ran 1 of them, it would run too high of a risk to not be able to summon Utopia Double. This one is in there because Utopia Double's effect lets it search, discard an Xyz material, search your deck for a Double or Nothing, add it to hand, and then it becomes another Utopia monster that has its attack doubled. However, it can't attack directly. So having 2 Double or Nothings allows for a failsafe. And if I'm unfortunate enough that I end up like drawing my Double or Nothing, then I can always use it as the cost for Twin Twisters or Onomatopoeia.
Okay.
Then I have 2 rank up Magic Baryons Force. This one serves a few purposes in my deck because where I have the chaos numbers, Utopia Ray V and Utopia Ray Victory, then I can use it to rank them up from Utopia, or I can discard them and then I can discard them from hand to the graveyard and Xyz summon Utopic Zexal or Utopic Dragon.
Okay.
Next I have a couple equip spells. First I have Reverse Breaker, so when you equip it to a Utopia and it declares an attack, then you target 1 spell or trap card and destroy it, and your opponent cannot activate any cards in response to this activation, so it's really good in that regard because it's a surefire way to destroy it without them choosing to like chain something to it. Then I have Rising Sun Slash. It's another one with counters. This one, it cannot be destroyed by card effects, and when it attacks, then you place a counter on it. Sorry, when you negate an attack, you place a counter on it, and it gains 500 attack for each attack that it negated. And if you were going to detach an Xyz material, then you could detach this equip spell instead.
Okay.
Next, I have Xyz Change Tactics, and when a Utopia monster is Xyz summoned to your field, then you can pay 500 life points and draw 1 card, but you can only control 1 Xyz Change Tactics. This one's great, especially if I have Onomatopoeia on the field at the same time, because then it guarantees that each time I summon a Utopia, then I'll get to draw a card at the low cost of 500 life points, and I'll get to add a counter which will boost it up more if I'm using both of those at the same time. Then I have Xyz Energy, and detach 1 Xyz material you control to target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy that target. It's great if you have something that you've added a lot of Xyz materials to. For example, I tend to stack a lot of Utopias in my process of making Utopia the Lightning, which means that sometimes it could have 3 Xyz materials, so I have 1 to spare and still use its effect besides. And then there's Monster Reborn. which of course target one monster in either player's graveyard, special summon it. This is great because if I detach something as an Xyz material, then I can monster reborn it if I want to summon another Utopia later on. Then I have 3 Twin Twisters, partially because spell and trap cards can be really scary sometimes. And I know that my deck, other than Reverse Breaker, isn't very well equipped to deal with spells and traps. So if I can get rid of them before they become a problem, then that's definitely beneficial. And finally, for spell cards, I have Raigeki, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. I don't see a downside to that.
No, it's pretty much a one-size-fits-all kind of card.
Absolutely. And then there are the trap cards, in which I have Xyz Reborn, only one of those. Target one Xyz monster in your graveyard, special summon it. If you do, attach this card to it as Xyz material. That's great because it means if I have a Utopia in my graveyard, Utopias really do generally need their Xyz materials to end up working fairly well. So if I just monster reborn a Utopia, then that's great and all, but it basically just becomes a 2500 attack point monster just sitting there. If I Xyz reborn it, then it means that I can give it an Xyz material and it can have the chance to negate an attack.
Okay.
Then there's Halfway to Forever, which I particularly like the name of it because it is also the name of the second English theme song for Zexal. Target 2 monsters in your graveyard, special summon both, negate their effects if any, and if you do, immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon 1 light Utopia or Utopic Xyz monster, using only those 2 monsters. So this is great to bring back the, say if somebody accidentally, oh my gosh, no, they're doing it on purpose. If somebody gets rid of your Utopia, sends it to the graveyard, whether they use an effect to destroy it or whether they battle it and destroy it, then you can use both of the monsters that you used to get that Utopia out in the first place and just make another Utopia. And I'm running one of those. Then I have 2 Mirror Forces, which is great because when an opponent's monster declares an attack, then you can destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters. And legitimately, it always is fun using a Mirror Force because sometimes people are expecting it, other times they're not expecting it, but it's something that can really buy you some time, especially if you're trying to set up an Xyz summon, or especially if they've done something that means that you can only special summon once per turn, and this deck heavily revolves around special summoning. So,
for our extra deck, what do we have?
Oh, my extra deck, this is my favorite part. First, I'm going to start with 3. Number 39, Utopia. Utopia can be made into a lot of versatile different Utopias, so I like to run 3 of them because really, Utopia, whether using it on its own or with something else, it's kind of the building block of this extra deck. If I run out of Utopias, then I have to rely on my Gaga Magician changing its level. I have number 39, Utopia Double, and that's the one I mentioned that lets you search for a double or nothing, add it to your hand, and it becomes another Utopia. It doubles the attack of whatever Utopia it becomes, which is great because then Utopia can become 5,000 attack points, and if you use that double or nothing that you added to your hand, then it can get up to 10,000, and that can be pretty scary, but in a good way. It's always fun bringing out double or nothing and Utopia Double as a combination. Then I have number 39, Utopia Beyond. This one requires 2 level 6 monsters, which is why I use Gaga Magician and Gaga Head or Automata Pickup for the level changing effect. And this one, when Xyz Summon, changes the attack of all monsters your opponent controls to 0. And it can also It can also recycle Utopias, but that would be better in Master Rules Revision April 2020 because right now there's not a good way to get out another Xyz monster that you can trade out for the Utopia you want to get. But when the new Master Rules Revision goes into effect, then Utopia Beyond will definitely see more use. Then we have Shining number 39, Utopia the Lightning. This one's particularly good because when it attacks, your opponent cannot use anything to respond to that attack. And once per turn, then you can detach 2 Xyz materials when it battles the opponent's monster. And when you do that, it goes up to 5,000 attack. So essentially you have a 5,000 attack point monster that they can't respond to.
I don't know. Really, they confused me sometimes.
Then there is Shining number 39, Utopia Prime, and this one's kind of fun because it has 25-10 attack, and it's great if you want to make someone do a lot of math.
Like me. I'm no good at that.
And this one,
okay.
its effect goes off when you have 3,000 life points below your opponent's, and you can reduce it. You can reduce it down to 10 life points, and it banishes or destroys? I can't remember. The manga had a different effect. Banish the monsters, all special summon monsters, and inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each monster banished. So it's kind of like a bit of a more powerful version of Photon Alexandra Queen, where that just returns them to the hand and inflicts 300 damage for each one. However, this one does have more of a situational cost, and it's kind of intended to get you out of a last-minute situation where your life points are low, and you pull out the Shining number 39, Utopia Prime, and then you destroy banish all of their special summon monsters. Then we have Chaos number 39, Utopia Ray. And I have 2 of those because it's great to stack for if you want to either use Onomatopia and Xyz change tactics for more of their effects. And it's great if you want to have more Xyz materials on Utopia the Lightning so it can use its 5,000 attack effect twice.
That's pretty rare card.
However, its own effect can only be used if you have 1,000 or less life points. So once again, it's one that you can use if you're in a tricky situation, but it is better to stack Utopias. Next there is Utopia Ray V and Utopia Ray Victory, and these ones each they're kind of similar but kind of different at the same time. Utopia Ray V is more of a burn damage card, and Utopia Ray Victory is kind of a forward attacker because its effects involve like when you attack your opponent's monster, whereas Utopia Ray V is detach an Xyz material, then target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. Next I have number 55, Go 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 Goliath. And this one I have because of Go 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 Aristra and Dexia's effect, because if I have Go 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 Aristra and Dexia on the field at the same time that I have number 55, Go 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 Goliath, then it means that essentially Go Go Goliath, which has 2,400 attack points, which is higher than my other Go Go Go's, it can stay on the field and it doesn't have to worry about being targeted for effects or attacks. Then I have 2 of Shining number S0 Utopic Zexal, and this one basically kind of shuts down the opponent for a turn.
Oh, okay.
Because its Xyz summon can't be negated, which means that if their strategy revolves around negating the summon of a monster and destroying it, then that won't work on shiny number 0. And with this one, then it also means that your opponent can't activate their cards or effects.
Okay.
And its attack and defense is equal to how many Xyz materials it has times 1,000. So if first you summon a Utopia, then turn it into Utopia Ray, then it can have 4 Xyz materials, bringing it up to 4,000. And you summon it by discarding a rank up magic from the hand, which is why I have 2 rank up magics. This one also, you can detach an Xyz material once per opponent's turn, and basically it stops them from using their card effects in their turn.
Okay. And last one.
And finally, we have Utopic Dragon. This one here is another one where you discard a rank up magic from your hand to the graveyard, and you get to summon this from a pre-existing Utopia. This one, I believe, this one does recycle numbers from the graveyard and summons them in defense position, but it negates their effects. So if I've already gone through a lot of my Utopias, if they're already destroyed, if I summon number 99 Utopic Dragon, then I can just detach its Xyz materials, and then I can just bring those Utopias back in defense position. Once again, it's going to be good for Master Rules Revision April 2020, because then, even though those Utopias don't have their effects, I can always use Utopia Ray, Utopia Prime, or Utopia the Lightning to turn them into a Utopia that does have effects.
Excellent. Anyway, do you have fun with the deck today?
I had a lot of fun with it. I'm really proud of them. They all did a wonderful job, and I really enjoyed it. I love playing this deck. There's something so exciting. It reminds me of when I was first getting into Zexal. It's just a very fun, lighthearted deck, and it's something that honestly gives me a lot of enjoyment every time I play it.
Great. Anyway, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe and be sure to click on the bell for notifications. You can also check me out on Facebook. The link is